We had left La Glaise about 2 days earlier, and we approached this area on Christmas night of 1944. And the great irony was that on our way approaching this area, we were standing in the half-track in the darkness singing Christmas carols, not knowing what was awaiting us. And at the top of this hill, the half-tracks left the road on the left side of the roadway, and it was just nothing. There was just nothing but brush. There were no real substantial trees there, so there was no problem in coiling the half-tracks and parking them there. And we dismounted, and we saw that there was a column of 5 Sherman tanks along the roadway. And when we formed up, our platoon sergeant left us know that we would not be in the lead, as was usually the case, but it would be the 3rd platoon that would lead the attack down the roadway. And that was unusual because they usually picked the 2nd platoon and our 3rd Rifle Squad in particular, so we were relieved. And then we formed up, and as we moved down the roadway here, it was a bright night, and but all you heard was the screeching of the bogey wheels of the tanks, and that always irritated us because that was like sending an alarm that we were coming. And then as we moved down the hill, we didn't go too far when we were supposed to be led by what they call creeping artillery fire, where the artillery would keep dropping in front of you, but you have to have a very close coordination for that to happen successfully. But anyway, something happened, and we caught a whole barrage of our own artillery, and because of the high ground here, it sort of gave us little warning that the shells were coming. But fortunately, on the right side of the road where I was, there was a ditch, and it was deep enough for me to get good shelter. But the shells were dropping so close, they were dropping right on the roadway, and I could feel the heat of the exploding shells. At the same time, the tanks were along the roadway, and the tank commanders were shouting over their radios to lift the firing because it was hitting our own men, and finally the firing lifted. But evidently there was such damage done to the lead platoon, the 3rd platoon, that we were ordered, the 2nd platoon was ordered to take the lead. And when the 2nd platoon took the lead, invariably it was the 3rd Rifle Squad that would be the actual leading squad. And then we formed around the 1st tank, the lead tank, and proceeded down toward the approach to the village of Grant-Mesnil. But there was like a 2-pronged artillery attack. There was one attack of artillery that was just pounding the village of Grant-Mesnil. And then we got down to a place where the roadway was no longer really elevated. And Pop Waters, our platoon sergeant, spotted something along the embankment, and he saw it was an outpost for the German group that was here in Grant-Mesnil. And he took 2 men with him. He took Aloysius Campa and George Sampson with him down the embankment to the foxhole where there were 2 German soldiers sitting in this foxhole, and they were both asleep, and their rifles were locked between their knees. And Pop Waters simply reached in, grabbed the muzzle of each rifle, and just jerked them out of their hands. Well, you can imagine what a shock that was to these German soldiers. But one reacted so uncertainly that Campa fired into him and evidently killed him on the spot. But the other German went screaming up out of the foxhole onto the roadway. And then after that, we continued a short distance when there was a horrible scream of direct fire, and immediately the tank that we were with was hit. And When that happened, the driver automatically threw the tank engine into reverse, and then the crew started bailing out, so you had a tank that was out of control. And that's a frightening scene, because you have a 32-ton out of control steel monster. And finally the tank left the roadway and circled in the field beside the road.
Hey Bob, you know the specific place that this happened down there further, don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that down there then?
Yeah, okay.